It's been a while since we've talked a little bit about the Island Gold District, but first I'd like to give you a bit of an introduction of Alamos as a whole and kind of give you a little bit of the backstory on our project and where we're going in the future. So as we take a look, we're a gold company, like we said, we're an intermediate gold producer, but we have a pretty significant project pipeline ahead of us. And as you take a look at the presentation there, we're talking about, we've made a commitment earlier this year on a go forward on our Lynn Lake operation in northern Manitoba. We've done an expansion, or proposing an expansion of the resource there. And as well as we've expanded our resource and reserves, and now we're looking down the road. Later this year, we'll be making substantial progress against the Phase 3 project, and we're looking to commission its expansion capacity next year. A couple of things we see here is we're one of the lowest intensity producers from a per ounce basis. As you can see, we're 0.17 versus 0.83. Tons per ounce, and one of the things that's really been advantageous for that is, but two is the fact that we're connected to the electrical grid. All of our assets right now are powered by electricity, which allows us to shed a lot of the other greenhouse gases that can frequently be emitted when you're at a remote site. Coupled with that, we have one of the lowest lost time injury frequency rates, because we do care for our people. They're the ones who actually make it happen, and it's very important that we do look after them. We make sure that they do feel appreciated. And what we're looking at also is when we complete our project, we're going to see an even further reduction in our greenhouse gases from island as we convert from ramp haulage to shaft hoisting. I just want to give a little bit of a history on our three sites on the general district. It entails the Island Gold Underground as well as a Magino open pit. We have the Young-Davidson mine there located closer to Timmins here in Matachewan, as well as we have an asset in Mexico called the Mulatos District, inclusive of the Mulatos and of the Yaqui Grande projects. Give you a bit of the history here. So this is what we see in the near term for the Island Gold project. But give you a little bit of the history. You guys remember back in 2020, right at the height of COVID, we made the announcement of the initial expansion of the Phase 3 project. Looks like we're continuing to have a bit of sound fun and getting a bit creative with how the antenna looks like. But what that was, is that was the initial opportunity we saw. We saw we could do about 2,000 tons per day from about a 1,200 meter depth. About 18 months later, we saw a significant expansion of resource and reserve, and we announced a further expansion. We're calling it the Phase 3 Plus, where we increased the production rate 20% to 2,400 tons per day, while still holding the same nominal schedule. It was a golden opportunity for us. The many challenges we're all familiar with COVID, it actually gave us a significant advantage. We were at the table with a committed expansion. We were able to lock in a lot of long lead time procurement items. We were able to secure a lot of third-party engineering assets when other people were canceling projects. We're starting one. And because of that, we've been able to hold schedule, we've been able to hold cost. And now, as always, the rubber's getting ready to meet the road. This year is kind of our peak project year as we're completing the shaft sink. We're going to be starting equipping later this year. Coupled with that, we now have the mill expansion. Originally it was intended to be at Island, but post-acquisition of Magino last year, we're now doing the expansion of the Magino site. And what we're looking at is as we transit through the 2026 year, we'll be completing the shaft project. We'll be commissioning the underground ore waste handling. We'll be commissioning also a paste fill plant, which will give us the infrastructure and resources we require to increase our production rate to 2,400 tons per day. Conversely, it'll see a significant reduction of nominally 40% in our all-in sustaining costs from the Island Gold Underground. No sooner do we complete that, we'll be starting our PDA project in our Mulatos project. It's an underground project in a historic Mulatos pit, and we're anticipating the construction to be starting latter part of this year, continuing into 2027. And that's going to be happening contemporaneously with the Lynn Lake project up in Manitoba. So as you can see, we got a very robust project timeline. But one of the things we are looking at again in our district since the acquisition of Magino is what's the right size for Magino. So right now we are going through a fulsome study which we'll be releasing later this year to discuss the opportunities we see in Magino. So to kind of give you a bit more of the details about Island, you can see that we are obviously located in Dubreuilville, a bit remote from here in northern Algoma. We are a combined underground open pit, which gives us an interesting opportunity here. We acquired the Magino operation because the Island Gold operation was again a historic underground. It was producing about 1,200 tons a day through the mill. Magino was a new project starting up, trying to reach their stride at 10,000 ore tons per day. By consolidating the two assets, we can combine them, we can consolidate, and as you'll see on the upcoming slides, we're able to shed a lot of the cost, we're able to see a lot of benefit from the synergistic activities. One of the big things we are seeing here is from a cash cost perspective, we are very competitive. On an underground perspective, we're about $700 an ounce. And a combined basis, we're a little over $1,000 an ounce. And again, an all-in sustaining cost, Island is about $1,100 an ounce, and we're about $1,400 from a combined basis. So the big opportunity we see here is in the next about 18 to 20 months, we're going to be seeing a significant reduction in costs and a significant increase in production from Island. One of the things we look at here is by the consolidation, once we complete our phase 3 expansion, we're going to be producing around 4,000 ounces for the combined district. We have a total reserve right now over 4.3, resource and reserve over 4.3 million ounces. 2.5 million of those are in reserve right now, and we're continuing to have a very high conversion ratio. We're realizing about $500 million in synergies. That's over the life of the mine, nominally about $25 million per annum. But this also gives us an interesting opportunity as we get into further slides, is if you look just outside the Island Gold and Magino horizons, you see that we now have a land package that has a lot of historic producers and a lot of upside potential. But this slide here also shows you it's one of the best visuals you can see. You can see in the foreground in the lower left, that's the Island Gold Shaft project, that's our head frame. As I've mentioned in previous presentations, we are sinking on the final head frame, with the idea being this will allow us the most rapid transition over from sinking to production. In addition to that, you can see off onto the right is more of the historic Island Gold operations. You can see the old Island Gold Mill over on the right, towards the center of the screen is the current portal facility. Over on the far left is the Magino open pit facility inclusive of the mill, basically outlined just nominally above center on this slide. It shows you how compact and interrelated everything is. We've gone through a number of aspects of the expansion, inclusive of the construction of a haul road. So the haul road will go from the head frame through the Island Gold site over to the Magino Mill. Right now, we're getting ready to utilize a portion from the existing Island site to Magino, so we can transfer hauled up from the portal and brought up to the mill at Magino. And these are some of the synergies we're expecting to see. Obviously, from a capital savings, this is the easy ones, $140 million. We're looking to build a 2,400 ton a day mill at Island, a 10,000 plus ton a day mill at Magino. In addition to that, from an operating savings, seeing a significant reduction through the economies of scale in regards to processing costs, as well as we're able to consolidate a lot of our teams. As you can imagine, G&A costs have a habit of growing a bit faster sometimes than the deposits grow. But this lets us bring a lot of experienced, talented employees together. And now we've consolidated a single larger district team, which already we're seeing a lot of benefits from. In addition to that, now we're negotiating from a larger position. One of the initial benefits we saw, as you can imagine, being a small underground mine compared to a large open pit mine, fuel costs. Through the benefit of economies of scale, we've seen a significant reduction there, as well as we are now able to negotiate from both a Canadian basis, our 3 assets, Magino, Island, and Young-Davidson, or the global facility inclusive of the Mulatto's assets. Now what we've been able to see is that we've been able to negotiate much more stronger position, and we are seeing further cost benefits from that. But one of the interesting parts of this drawing here, as you can see highlighted in red towards the center of the screen, that's the Island Gold underground deposit. And you notice the strike is aligned with Magino because the two deposits are related. And heretofore, that road that's going up to the north was acting as effectively the boundary between the two sites. That boundary no longer exists. This gives us the opportunity to drill, gives us the opportunity to compare the two resource models, and we're starting to really develop the area that sat between the two mines historically. But as I mentioned previously, this is also a bit of a broader view. It shows you the land acquisitions we've done. So Island Gold was historically a Richmont Mines asset. We acquired it in 2017. That brought with it about 9,500 hectare. In 2020, we acquired the Trillium Mining, an small explorer. We got about 5,400 hectares from there. 2023, we acquired Manitou Gold, which had a significant land holding in this region, stretching predominantly over towards the east, towards the historic Renabi area. And then 2024, obviously, we acquired Magino. So now right now, our total land holdings is just under 60,000 hectares. Contains a number of historic producers, including the areas around Renabi, a number of small producers, Klein and Edwards towards the middle, then obviously ourselves, Island, and Magino. Which now gives us the opportunity, since they're all under a single landowner, we're able to explore it in an expeditious manner. We're no longer competing, we're no longer having to do that. And we're able to also take the 50,000 foot view and say, what does this district really look like? And there's show you a bit more of what we're seeing short to mid-term. We talked about before, Magino mine right now produces roughly 10,000 a day, right around 1 gram per ton. Island Gold is currently producing a little over 1,200 tons a day at about 11 grams per ton. We're looking to combine the two into the single Magino Mill. So we acquired Magino in 2024. We're running the two mills. As I'll get it on the next slide, we've had some challenges, as always. You know, a new plant, it takes you a while to learn how to make it hum. I think we're at that point now where we are starting to see the reliability and the performance out of the Magino facility. 2025, this year, we're going to be consolidating the two mill feeds. Advantages being we're able to realize a significant cost benefit from the more efficient or larger scale mill at Magino. In addition to that, we're seeing no loss of recovery. As I showed on the previous slide, two deposits are very interrelated. Identical metallurgically, we're seeing the same high 90% recoveries from the combined ore stream through our ore test. As I mentioned before, we see an increase from Island. We're going to be doubling the production from 1,200 tons a day to 24. And those will be again combined into the Magino. Now, to support those two expansions, we are doing small sub-mill expansions along the way. This is going to be primarily leach. We're going to be adding ourselves some more leach tanks, as well as giving ourselves some more gravity capacity, as well as expanding our elutions and our refining processes. As we go through the 2025, we'll continue some more of those expanded capacities to ensure that we can deliver reliably to 12,400 ore tons a day. Now the next question is what's next? I like to talk to my team at the mine site. You said I started in 2018 at the site. At that time, we're 900 tons a day. Phase 1 was to get us to 1,000. Phase 2 is to 1,200. Phase 3 was 2,000. Phase 3 plus is 2,400. Now the guys are asking me, what's phase 4? All I can say, guys, watch this space. I think you'll like what you see. But where we are looking at right now is right-sizing Magino, as well as we are looking in our large land package to see what opportunities lie there. As we talked previously there, the Magino Mill, we did struggle a bit. But like anybody who's ever done a startup, you know there's always opportunity for improvement. Everything looks great on paper. Once the rock meets the steel, things look a bit different at times. But we have been making good progress towards that. We are approaching our nameplate rating. We're getting closer every day. We are removing bottlenecks. We are eliminating problems as we encounter them. So we expect to see ourselves, like I mentioned before, 11,200 tons per day through the Magino Mill here in the very near term. And again, we'll talk through the project itself. We are on track. We're below the 1050 horizon. Again, to put it back into perspective, shaft is going to go down to 1,378 meters. We're over 1,000 meters deep now. We've cut our first two stations at 840 and 1050. And we are continuing on schedule, with the idea being that we'll be hitting shaft bottom towards the end of this year. We'll revert over and start the conversion over to the equipping. As we'll work through next year, we'll do the equipping of the ore and waste commissioning with hoisting late in the latter part of 2026. See a couple pictures there of what a difference a couple years make. You can see in April, we're doing this initial steel work at the site. And that's actually the paste plant. And then you go look down below, that's 1050, that's the shaft station we had. Again, a little bit of a personal note again. When I first came to Island, the first question I got asked in my crew meetings is, when are we sinking a shaft? Well, I told them now we've started the shaft, and they're going to be sinking the shaft at the end of the year. And an interesting little anecdote on this is, you know, our mine rescue team is competing here. They actually went underground at Kidd. They competed first team, so fingers crossed all goes well with them. We'll find out late Friday night. But it was an interesting conversation, as the majority of that team has never been on a cage before. So those of you who have been around underground, you know that most of the mines in Canada are shaft access, you ride on a cage. Very interesting conversation on the cage, and one of our lead mine rescue guys was saying he was surprised by how much it bounces. So anybody who's done that is literally a leap of faith to exit the cage and go off in the shaft station. But it does highlight some of the change we have to be aware. And we are going through our operational readiness process right now, and we are involving members of our operations team to ensure that we are successful. Now, the last two slides here, I'll cover this pretty quickly. The Island Gold deposit has been a stellar performer, both from a production perspective as well as an exploration. We're seeing right now we're still open as we go down to the east. You can see the line in the kind of the gray line just off the center there, that's the shaft location. And the reason why we located the shaft there is obviously it's near the centroid of the ore body at depth, but we're also seeing that continuing to plunge over to the east. And the last bit, just to show you some of the growth we've seen here. Seen about a 71% increase in resource and reserves, but most importantly, you take a look on the right, look at our net positive value, or net present value, growth. It's gone up over 700%. And you can see, especially over the last couple of years, even prior to the Magino acquisition. I think Island Gold is a stellar asset. It's continuing to grow, and it will be here for at least the next 20 years. Okay, guys, thank you very much for the opportunity.